Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing New.
Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. And we must have got hundreds of requests for this video. What fighter can, dethrone Vasyl Lomachenko? So we're just going to break it down to be honestly as we can. And first off, we start with Vasyl Lomachenko. He's a two-time Olympic gold medalist. He's a three-weight world champion. He's a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter. Some of the notable names on his resume are Gary Russell Jr., Jorge Linares, Guillermo Rigondeaux, Nicholas Walters. So he has a good resume. He's done a lot in his career, and he is a pound-for-pound fighter. The only issue that anyone can ever have with Vasyl Lomachenko is he doesn't have an elite name on his resume. He doesn't have a top-tier name on his resume, because when you say an elite or a top-tier name, you're looking for the Mikey Garcia at 135. You feel like that'd be a fantastic fight. And if Vasyl Lomachenko can get that type of name on his resume, then that would make all the difference in the world. But since Mikey Garcia seems and appears not to be interested at all in the Vasyl Lomachenko fight, yes, he mentions it, he talks about it, but he's not interested in actually coming down into the weight and making the fight happen, or at least appear so as of right now. What fighters can challenge Vasyl Lomachenko? And we're gonna break it down. And before we get into the fighters that can challenge Vasyl Lomachenko, we got to get into, what Vasyl Lomachenko has been through. And, when you break down Vasyl Lomachenko, you see him look fantastic against these guys. Him pretty much dominated Gary Russell Jr., dominated Guillermo Rigo, and stopped a Jorge Linares. So those are 3 very good fighters. But just because, Vasyl Lomachenko has put on a masterful display against a lot of fighters, he had some issues and bumps and bruises. And you see some of those bumps and bruises, and let's just break them down. Well, first, Vasyl Lomachenko is 31 years old. He's 5'7" with a 65.5-inch reach. Now, we've seen against an Orlando Salido hit Vasyl Lomachenko with an incredible shot that nearly dropped him. Now, we understand that Orlando Salido is not an elite level puncher, but he's a very good puncher, a solid puncher. But he's not the type of fighter that you think that'll be able to stop you with one shot. And he significantly hurt Vasyl Lomachenko in their fight. Yes, he did beat Vasyl Lomachenko. A lot of people credit the low blows. There was a lot of low blows, but then there was also a lot of shots right on the belt line as well. Vasyl Lomachenko, being a pound-for-pound fighter, being a masterful fighter, you expect him to find his way through it. And at the end, he did find his way through it. At the end, he came on strong, and he nearly stopped Orlando Salido at the end of that fight. But you have to credit Orlando Salido. He kept the pressure on, made him uncomfortable, and that's the key to beating Vasyl Lomachenko. There is a blueprint to it. Whether we want to agree with the decision or not, there is the blueprint. Orlando Salido significantly hurt Vasyl Lomachenko, and that's the most important thing at some point in that fight. And then you see, yes, Vasyl Lomachenko beat Jorge Linares, stopped him, dominated him, hit him with some impressive shots. But at the same time, Vasyl Lomachenko looked vulnerable in that fight as well. Vasyl Lomachenko was dropped in that fight. And so, we see that when it comes to Vasyl Lomachenko taking huge shots, he doesn't always respond, as well as we can when we see him take an enormous shot. Yes, after the fact, he comes back strong, finishes the fight strong. I'm feeling like he has a lot to prove, and that's what you want from a champion. So it doesn't mean he's a terrible fighter because he takes a big shot, but that shows you something that he's not a perfect fighter, because no fighter is. And that's what made the Mikey Garcia versus Vasyl Lomachenko fight the fight that everyone felt would be the best. Because if you look at Mikey Garcia, what does he do very well? He can put you on your backside. Mikey Garcia can stop you, he can hurt you, and everyone felt that if Jorge Linares can hurt Vasyl Lomachenko, if Orlando Salido can hurt Vasyl Lomachenko, imagine what Mikey Garcia could do if he catches him. But on the other end, a lot of people felt like if Vasyl Lomachenko can outwork Mikey Garcia, who seems to be flat-footed at times, who seems to be stuck in his own ways and doesn't pick too many shots, but at the same time, Mikey Garcia doesn't waste shots. So a lot of people feel like it would have been a great tactical fight against, 2 elite caliber world champions at 135 pounds. That's why this fight was the fight to see. This fight was the fight to make. And unfortunately, we're not getting that fight. So we have to focus on what's next. And can anyone stop or dethrone Vasyl Lomachenko? Because it looks like Mikey Garcia will not be that guy. And so we start with Luke Campbell. And, I don't look at Luke Campbell as a true contender of being able to compete with Vasyl Lomachenko. He's a solid fighter. He's a quality fighter. He's only lost twice in his career. And, he's avenged one of those losses. And then the other loss, I believe, was to a Jorge Linares, who's Vasyl Lomachenko already beat. Luke Campbell's a very good fighter, but he's not an elite level fighter. He's not a top level fighter. And he doesn't do anything special. He just does everything good. And so I feel like Luke Campbell doesn't appear to be the guy with a special trait, quality, or be able to bring the pressure to give Vasyl Lomachenko the power, because I really think it's going to come down to power and pressure when you're fighting a guy like Vasyl Lomachenko, letting him get comfortable in his groove. And I just don't know what Luke Campbell can do to stop that. And so we start with the first fighter, and we start with the Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez is 14-0 with 11 knockouts. He has a 79% knockout rate. He's 22 years old. He's an orthodox fighter. He's 5'8" with a 68.5-inch reach. And, if you look at Teofimo Lopez, he's put in great work, and he's shown that he has the power and the pop to disrupt almost anybody he stands in the ring with. And because of his power, that gives him an enormous and outstanding chance to go against a guy like Vasyl Lomachenko and possibly leave with a shocking victory, because the power is going to be a partial key to beating Vasyl Lomachenko. You can't just be a slugger. You have to have some kind of boxing skill. And you know what? We've seen Teofimo Lopez, spar with some of the best guys out there, such as or Yordenis Ugas. And so we see that Teofimo Lopez has, the foundation of a very good fighter. But is he ready for this type of fight at only 22 years old? He's already came out and stated, how he can beat Vasyl Lomachenko. There's multiple ways to do it. He also basically stating that he's ready for Vasyl Lomachenko. This is the fight that him and Vasyl Lomachenko need to make. This is the fight that needs to happen. But then something unusual happened. Teofimo Lopez fought a guy in Mayoshi Nakatani, and Nakatani was an undefeated fighter who had enormous height and reach advantages over Teofimo Lopez. And he went the full 12 rounds with Teofimo. Teofimo couldn't get him out. Teofimo won the victory, but it was a lot closer than many people thought it would be going into the fight. Teofimo got marked up way more than he ever has, and it was a good step-up fight. These are the type of fights that you can improve on. A lot of people said he was exposed, and I thought it was a little bit of both. I thought that Teofimo's boxing skills to some degree was exposed, but at the same time, he's still young enough and a prospect to where he's not completely exposed, because it's still just a growing process at 22 years old. What do you expect? Do you expect the guy to have everything down at 22? No, of course not. So you can understand both sides of the coin. But at the same time, is Teofimo Lopez ready? And so this is pretty much my answer to that. The IBF orders Teofimo Lopez versus the Richard Commey fight. Now, that would be an even more difficult fight, many people feel, because, you see a guy like Richard Commey who's a world champion, has power in both hands and can box. They believe that Richard Commey would give Teofimo more than he wants. And Teofimo answered this question for us by going on Max on Boxing. And in the Max on Boxing, he basically comes out and states, about the IBF ordering the fight and him potentially facing, a Richard Commey, a very difficult opponent on the road to Vasyl Lomachenko. And he says, I have to regroup with myself, because of making weight and worrying about some of his family members who aren't so supportive of his recent marriage. He wants to rectify that situation. He's basically stating that, he has to figure out himself, get his head screwed on tight before he makes a decision on what he does next. So the possibility of the, Richard Commey Teofimo fight still lingers for November. But as of right now, he's just focusing on getting his head straight. So it seems like Teofimo Lopez is doubting himself, maybe have a little bit of confidence issues after the Nakatani fight. And that's normal, because he did not look the part of his normal self in that particular fight. And then we get to the next fighter. We get to a guy like Devin Haney. Devin Haney is 22-0 with 14 knockouts. He has a 64% knockout streak. He's 20 years old. He's actually younger. He's 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. And the interesting thing about, Devin Haney is, not only has been have tutelage from Floyd Mayweather and many other top-level world champion boxers, but at the young age of 20 years old, this guy is looking like one of the best fighters that we've seen in a long time. He's looking like a young version of Floyd Pretty Boy Money Mayweather, and you know it looks very special. He's 22-0 with 14 knockouts, and his next fight is going to be against Abdulaev, and the winner is going to be locked in as the WBC mandatory. Now, basically, once he go ahead and if he can get past this fight, impressive. And Abdulaev is another undefeated fighter. He's 11-0 with 7 knockouts. If he gets this win against Abdulaev, then he becomes the WBC mandatory, and the winner, you know, of the Vasyl Lomachenko and Luke Campbell fight will have to fight Devin Haney for the world title. And you know, Devin Haney has already came out and stated that he's ready to wreak havoc at 135. He's ready to bring the pain. He's ready for the best in the division. Him and Teofimo Lopez have even sparred. So he's ready to fight the best fighters now. At only 20 years old, he's ready for all the smoke. And you can do nothing but acknowledge that. You know, you see the WBC, you know, they ordered the mandatory winner of the Loma versus Campbell, you know, to fight the winner of Abdulaev and Devin Haney. So you can see that happening. And if Devin Haney, you know, he's ranked number 3 by the WBA, number 5 by the WBO. So he's ranked high in all sanctioning bodies, not just one. So you also have the Teofimo fight if Teofimo takes on Richard Comey and he wants to get that done. Devin Haney is very confident in his skills and his abilities, and states in 2020, y'all will see me beat Vasyl Lomachenko. So I honestly think that, you know, while we have nothing but prospects lined up to face Vasyl Lomachenko, and of course Vasyl Lomachenko would be favored, rightfully so, in any fight that he would have, whether it be Devin Haney, whether it be Richard Comey, Luke Campbell, or Teofimo Lopez, you would rightfully favor Vasyl Lomachenko. You would have no choice, because Vasyl Lomachenko is that good. He is an elite level fighter. He is a problem in the division, and he's reigning supreme in the division. But you have to give the young guys a chance. I honestly think that Devin Haney would have the best chance, because not only does Devin Haney appear to have top and elite level boxing skills, he's put that on display. He also has good power and pop to go along with it. And if Devin Haney can get past his next test, I think he may just be the biggest threat to Vasyl Lomachenko. But once again, Unbiased as always is the IBFP.